Tom Stockdale's teeth are nearly as bad as his relationship with his children's mother. They're not that bad.
I'm sorry for everything that is going on and everything that I have put you through.
As my powers grow, yours fade away.
I went from what you just saw, looking like a beauty guru, to now looking like someone that you wouldn't want to see like in a dark alley. Do you mean? So, I don't know what this video is. Bit of backstory for the intro. Recently, I have been coined the btec James Charles because I get compared to him a lot, which I mean, I feel like it's a bit of a reach. Like, I wear makeup, yes, but I don't think I actually share that many traits with him. But anyways, obviously he's like cancelled now, so I'm not the btec James Charles. I'm not the A-level James Charles, contrary to what you just saw. I'm fucking Adam Jack, and that will be my brand and is going to continue being my brand. Oh, also, Adam Jack. So, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Adam Jack. I'm nothing to do with James Charles anymore. Thank you. Just wanted to renounce that because a lot of controversy around that man right now. This part of the video, like, obviously I know that the intro was like supposed to be like a bit of a joke and stuff like that. However, I have some shit to say about this whole situation. I wrote like 12 pages of notes. I want to try and keep this video as clear and concise as possible, but I just have a lot to say, and it's stuff that I don't think is being talked about enough in regards to this whole situation. So yeah, stick around. I would love for you to hear this because I want as many people as possible to hear this. Obviously, the start of this video was a bit of a joke, but now I am going to get a little bit more serious because some of the stuff that I want to talk about is actually really important and personal to me. That being said, I'm just going to go ahead and start talking. So the first thing that I wanted to get out the way is I don't want to alienate anyone who isn't part of the LGBT plus community, but there's going to be a lot of controversial opinions in this video. I want this to be an open conversation. If I say something and you disagree, brilliant, let me know in the comments. I don't want this to be hateful. And also, I don't make videos like this very often. I'm not a drama channel, I'm not a commentary channel, so I'm not going to have all the facts straight. I'm not going to have all of the receipts pulled up. So if I get something wrong, also just let me know. I'm here to learn just as much as you potentially could be. It's going to be really hard to navigate like this conversation without straight people potentially getting butthurt about this, specifically homophobic straight men, which I know that the majority of you aren't. I know that most people are progressive people and are willing to listen. So if you are watching this and you're about to comment something stupid and homophobic or just about how you're butthurt about shit, first of all, listen to the whole video because I'm not here to attack straight people. And second of all, straight people have been horrible to my community for years, so welcome to my world. Try being murdered for your sexuality. Sit down and listen to what I have to say. Thank you. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this video, and it's actually the whole motivation behind this video and the main thing that I want to touch on, is the fact that all of this shit has happened with James Charles. Like, a lot has come out about him, about his like being a shit person, he's used his power to manipulate people. You know, Tati did a 43-minute video in which she talked about a lot of stuff that James Charles has done that I feel like needed to be put out there because clearly his ego has gotten so high that he feels like he can do whatever he wants. However, like I've already said, this video was 43 minutes long, and then also other people have come out with a lot of stuff essentially condemning James Charles. Yet the only thing that I seem to see at the moment on my timeline, and the only thing that people care about, is the fact that James Charles tried to turn straight guys gay. Now yes, what he was doing was wrong. He was using his position of power. You know, he's someone massive online and even within the, you know, real world celebrity space, has a lot of influence, a lot of money, a lot of followers, and he was using that to try and manipulate people into, you know, situations where they may not have felt completely comfortable. So yes, I agree that that is wrong, because it is. But what I don't agree with is the fact that the only reason people seem to care about that is the fact that it was a gay man doing it to a straight man. In my opinion, this situation should not be about the fact that it was a gay man doing it to a straight man. It should be purely being highlighted and condemned on the basis that he was someone in a position of power using said power to manipulate people into situations they obviously weren't comfortable in, like I said. But people only really seem to care because it's a gay man doing it to a straight man, which isn't fair. We have seen countless other people on YouTube use their platform wrongly. We've seen people being sexual predators in other situations with really like underage girls. However, those people haven't necessarily had a career-ending cancelled party in the same way that James Charles seems to have. Obviously, James Charles is someone huge on the platform. That has a big part of why he has had such a knockdown. Like, he's lost almost 3 million subscribers. I've seen other people on the platform do similar things, if not worse things, with underage girls. Like, there has been men on this platform that have done it to underage girls for years now. They've abused their power and, you know, done weird sexual creepy things that they shouldn't be doing as people, yet they still have a career. People have swept it under the rug and left it. You know, obviously they get called out, like there's a load of drama about it, but then it does get swept under the rug and people forget about it and they carry on having their career. Men have been doing stuff like this to women for as long as we can remember, and still are, and often ends in women being abused or even murdered. Now, I'm not saying that that should diminish anyone's experiences with James Charles, nor am I saying that it should justify his actions at all. I just want to highlight the fact that stuff like this, men persistently pursuing women, happens all the time, and it's so normalised that people don't talk about it. But then James Charles is being completely condemned because it's a gay man doing it to a straight man, in shock. Like, now that it's affecting straight people want to talk about it. Like, I just don't think that's fair. Obviously, we're in the middle of this scandal right now. We don't know where James Charles's career is going to go. He could easily bounce back like he has from his other scandals, but I don't know whether or not that's actually going to happen, because the other scandals that he has been involved in haven't affected the majority. They haven't affected straight men. For example, he was recently transphobic, and obviously people were mad about it, but it kind of got swept away. People forgot about it very quickly, and he carried on growing. I think a lot of this stuff boils down to a lot of underlying homophobia that people don't even realise is still there. If you don't already know, there's been a really large stigma around gay people, gay men specifically, that we are like sexual predators. You know, there's a lot of sexual deviance and just like grossness around gay men for a very, very long time. Obviously, we're moving into an age where stuff like that just isn't really talked about anymore, because people are moving on and growing and realising that that's dumb. However, it's clear that stuff like that is still, you know, underlying, because it has taken one little thing like this, where a gay man has done something to a straight man, for everyone to completely condemn and destroy and crucify James Charles and focus on just the fact that it's a gay person doing it to a straight person, as opposed to focusing on the fact that he was in a position of power, used that power to manipulate people into doing things, in the same way that, like, I know that this is a really extreme case, but people like Harvey Weinstein did the exact same thing, and obviously he was boycotted, but he's still in the industry, he's still, you know, like working and stuff like that. And although it's not necessarily the same situation, they both use their power wrongly. However, James Charles seems to be being really condemned just because he was a gay man doing it to a straight man, and I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's fair, because the error in what James Charles did was the fact that it was him in a position of power using it wrongly. Now, let's take the Logan Paul situation, for example. He filmed a dead body and uploaded it to YouTube, yet somehow the next day gained 80,000 subscribers from it. Whereas James Charles, yes, he was gross, yes, what he did was wrong, but he's lost almost 3 million subscribers. It might be hard for some people to grasp, and obviously this is my opinion, but from what I can tell and what I've experienced in my own life, it is largely to do with the fact that it is a gay man, because a lot of people have jumped onto the bandwagon to hate on James Charles, because people don't like James Charles anyways, but they're also homophobic and they just want to hate on him because he's gay. And in regards to the whole sexual deviance thing, let's talk about the fact that Shane Dawson had a scandal a while ago and people were calling him a paedophile and stuff like that because of a joke he made in one of his podcasts ages ago. I don't have all the facts on this situation, so I might speak wrongly about it, but as far as I'm aware, he essentially was cancelled and was labelled a paedophile. And I think if that was someone who was straight doing that, it would be a lot less to do with the weird paedophile sexual predator aspect and just be about the fact that he said like a gross gross joke. The definition of sexual predator is someone trying to get like sexual actions through a relatively predatory or aggressive manner, in the same way that, you know, animals hunt for their prey. But everyone knows the connotations with the word sexual predator. You do go straight to people being underage. So the fact that people have been calling James, and when the whole thing happened with Shane, I believe it is still largely to do with the fact that people still kind of have that connotation with gay people or LGBT people, though there's a lot linked to sort of paedophilia and stuff like that, and which I just think is wrong. I don't know if I'm making sense right now. I hope I am. There's a lot of complex history behind this, and it's really hard to explain. However, I'm not done. There's still some more stuff that I need to say. Let's take Jake Paul, for example. If it came out, if he was exposed for messaging girls and trying to get in their pants, like if they were of age, obviously, I don't think that he would be labelled a sexual predator, in the same way that a lot of other things like this have happened, where it's come out that YouTubers are using their power to like message young girls that are of age, but they're, you know, they're still using their power to try and sleep with people. And I've seen very few instances where those straight guys are labelled as sexual predators. I don't think that it's fair that James Charles is labelled a predator after what he's done, when it's been happening in the community for a very long time. But when it's a straight guy doing it to like a young girl, they don't necessarily get the same they don't necessarily get condemned in the same way that James Charles has, and get labelled a sexual predator straight away. Oh no! The way that I'm talking right now, I feel like it sounds like I'm defending what James Charles did. I am not. What he did is wrong. I cannot enunciate that enough. I'm just mad at people's reactions to it, because I feel like it's having major backlash on the LGBT plus community. I feel like it's taken a couple of steps in the wrong direction when it comes to people being progressive about gay people, because now I feel like we've gone back to that age-old stereotype of gay men being predators. And that's not okay with me, because shock, I'm gay, and I'm not a f***ing predator. Another thing that I wanted to touch on in regards to James Charles like going for straight boys, prior to all of this coming out, and obviously him being exposed for like using his power wrong and stuff like that, I actually did side with James originally about his boy troubles and stuff like that, because he's been very public and open about situations he's had in the past where he has been with people who present as straight. Now obviously it's come out that James Charles was inappropriate and pursued said people to the extent where those people were uncomfortable, which obviously, like I said a million times, is wrong. However, I will say that there's a little bit of a grey area that people also aren't really talking about. Sexuality is not just gay and straight. It's not as black and white as that. There is a lot more to it. You know, there's bisexuality, people can, you know, be very sexually fluid, and especially nowadays, people are a lot more open to exploring and stuff like that. I think a lot of the people that actually were involved with James Charles, like, were somewhat curious. I'm glad that we're in a time and age where if a guy wants to explore his sexuality, it's not as taboo, because I know for the longest time, especially straight men, if they wanted to explore their sexuality, it was very just looked down upon, because there was a lot of stigma around gay men. This is a bit of a tangent, but it's just something that I also wanted to talk about. Prior to all of this coming out, I sided with James briefly because I have had similar situations myself where guys that would present as straight and say that they were straight would pursue me and kind of give me signals and like give me the impression that they were interested. So then I would reciprocate that. Because as well, there's such a stigma around men exploring their sexuality. I think sometimes it just seems like they want to dip the toes in, see what happens, and then, you know, they maybe are like, okay, this isn't for me. Like, for example, the James Charles and Gage situation. Obviously, I don't know the full story, no one really knows the full story, but it seems like Gage was interested in exploring a little bit, was interested in James Charles, and then after dating for a while, wanted to like call it quits. Which I just want to point out is very normal. When people date, they date to find out whether or not they're attracted to someone, and if they're not, then they stop dating. And that's another aspect of where James Charles, I think, definitely went wrong. It could be a lot more intense than just this surface level stuff. So I don't know, but James Charles seems to have taken it straight to the sort of like, you used me, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, yeah, because when you're dating, you do use the people to figure out whether or not you're attracted to them. Obviously, there's the added element of sexuality, which makes it a little bit more complex and confusing, but like, when it boils down to it, again, you need to forget about sexuality and just think about the fact that someone dated you and then decided they weren't interested, realised they weren't interested, move on. So the next thing I wanted to touch on is a similar thing to what I was just talking about, and it's something that Tati actually mentioned in her video. She talked about what James Charles was doing with the waiter. She talked about how he was being very explicit and sexual about like the waiter and stuff like that, and was like really upset about it, really annoyed. And I panicked at first because I'm quite a vulgar person and talk very openly about sex and stuff like that. So I was a bit like, oh god, like, is this what I'm like? But then she said that it happened at like a family dinner in front of her family and friends and stuff like that, which is is obviously where he went wrong. It's kind of like, read the room, James, realise where you are, don't, you know, talk about sucking someone's in front of someone's mother. Like, that's just a little bit weird. So that there is obviously where he went wrong. From the way that she spoke about this situation, it seemed like he seemed attracted to someone. Obviously, don't know what happened, wasn't there, don't know whether or not he was being really forward with this person. From what's come out about him, potentially he was being really forward with this person, which obviously is a little bit weird and uncomfortable anyways. But from the way that she described this situation, she seemed to instantly dismiss his attraction to someone because he was straight. And coming from someone who has had a lot of scenarios where someone has presented as straight and said like that they were straight, but then given very intense signals, you know, flirting and moving way past flirting, like obviously I won't go into detail, but you know, the fact that she dismissed his attraction to him because he was straight kind of annoyed me at first. But then his response to that was like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm a celebrity. And that's gross. That's what was wrong in the scenario. But again, people took that scenario and were mad at him about the fact that he was attracted to a straight guy. Which also, this guy turned out to be bi-curious anyways, so like for example, if I said that about a girl that was like really, really attractive, people wouldn't really necessarily bat an eye. But as soon as I say something about a guy who's straight, people are very quick to be like, yeah, but he's straight. James might have been being very forward with this person and pursuing him, and if he was uncomfortable with that, obviously that's wrong. But for me personally, when things like this have happened, I don't ever necessarily pursue people. Even if I know that the person is out and gay, I'm not usually the one that makes the first move because I'm just not that person. And then obviously it's a little bit more complex when the person's sexuality is a little bit more ambiguous. But again, I am never the person that initiates it. However, I requite what I am given. If someone is sending me specific signals, you know, and I'm interested, I'm going to send them back and flirt back. Let's not forget that 93% of communication is done through body language and like voice, and 7% of it is words alone. So if I'm pursuing someone, it's because they gave me the signals to pursue them. And I don't just mean a cheeky DM on Instagram or something like that. I mean like face-to-face signals. Unlike James, where he chose his target and decided to pursue him, which is weird and wrong. But yeah, like I say, in that situation, everyone should have focused on the fact that he responded with, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm a celebrity. Because that's weird and awful and gross, and proof that he, you know, is clearly used to using his power to get what he wants. That is not okay. But people just focused on the fact that he was hitting on another straight guy again, which he also turned out to be bi-curious as well. So like, this is what I mean, sexuality is so complex and it's just really difficult to navigate situations like this because there's such a weird stigma. So just a little follow-on story to back up what I was just talking about. Me and my friend, who is now transgender and she's transitioning, prior to her transition, her and I would go out as boys but in makeup, and we would get pursued a lot in the club by people that presented as straight. For example, one time someone went up to him at the time, and said, I'm straight but you're confusing me, because he at the time was wearing makeup. And that is an example of people's sexuality being a little bit more fluid, because sometimes people are just attracted to beautiful people. Like, I know that that's like a bit of a douchey thing to say about you and your friend, but like, I understand that we're feminine. Obviously she's transitioned now, but at the time she was just a feminine boy, and I think we give off a certain energy and a certain vibe that I think anyone would be attracted to, regardless of sexuality. That's not me implying that we can turn straight guys or anything like that. It's just an example of how fluid sexuality can be. Like recently at Becky's party, when we were travelling, at the train station, I went to the toilet, and as I walked out, I was speaking to the security guards because I just wanted to ask a question, and a couple of guys that were in the toilets with me were staring, and I am used to stuff like that because I did have a full face of makeup on. I got a little bit uncomfortable but just tried to ignore it and run away because I was scared that they were staring for the wrong reasons, because sharp people still hate gay people and want to murder us, so that's fun. However, the tables were turned because as they left the toilet and walked past, and one of the guys said, I'm really sorry, I am straight, but I just wanted to let you know how beautiful you are. You are a beautiful human being, and I just wanted to say that, and my friend agrees, and the friend was like, yeah, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I mean. This straight man was somewhat attracted to me because I am beautiful. I don't mean it like that, but you know, he found me beautiful. And it could be to do with the fact that I looked a little bit more feminine. Maybe that's what he was attracted to. But then again, he knew I was a boy, but still found me attractive. So like I say, I think it's just a little bit more fluid nowadays, and I think that there needs to be less of a stigma around like that. That being said, just to reiterate once again, because I don't want people to get this twisted, I am not siding with James Charles. What he did was wrong. So I only have a couple more things that I want to talk about. The last thing is a very quick thing, and it is essentially, long story short, stop believing every single thing that you read on the internet. I could easily be misinformed right now because in regards to the whole James Charles situation, no one knows the full story because we are not him. We are not Tati. We are not the people that are involved in these stories. They always say there's three sides to a story. Their point of view, the other person's point point of view and the truth. So let's not forget to just stop taking everything as Bible as soon as they read it on Twitter. I'm Alex made a whole video about this, essentially coming to James Charles's defense, because people were making up fake DMs to expose James Charles even more, which is disgusting and absurd, and people believed it straight away. Even though, like Alex said in his video, from further inspection you could very easily tell that these DMs were fake. Obviously I'll link Alex's video down below because it was really good and very true, but I just wanted to mention it here as well because people are just very quick to believe every single thing that they hear and see on the internet. Frankly, I do believe what Tati said in her video is true, but we don't know everything that's going on. We've never met that girl. We've never met James. We don't know what is actually going on here. Obviously, not discrediting and I'm not disputing, you know, everything that's come out about him and stuff like that, because realistically, it probably is all true. But let's not forget how easy it is to lie on the internet. So, the last thing that I wanted to say, and it kind of feeds off of what I was just saying as well, is we need to stop being horrible. I understand that what James Charles did and has been doing is wrong, and I'm glad that he's being called out about it, because clearly his ego seems very inflated and it seems like he needs to be, you know, taken down a few steps. But let's not knock him down an entire fucking flight of stairs. If you don't want to support him, fine, unfollow him, don't buy his merch, don't, you know, have any sort of association with him. That's absolutely fine. But let's not bully him and be disgusting and horrible, because this is someone who has been very, very public about how much the hate that he receives on the internet gets to him. He has been very public about that. This is a really extreme scenario, but I did see someone tweet this the other day, and I do somewhat agree. If he was to take his own life, you would all feel horrible, especially considering we know how sensitive this person is and how it's happened in the past. This is a very plausible scenario to happen. So let's just not forget that this is a human being. He has feelings, and obviously I think he will definitely have learned his lesson. I think he'll know that what he has been doing is wrong, and hopefully he will be humbled by this whole situation. But sending him here and making him feel even worse than he probably already does is not doing anyone any favours, because people really do like to act tough on the internet. Like, okay, you can swear at me behind the keyboard. Wow, says a lot about you. Do you know what I mean? Like, just grow up. Everyone just needs to grow up. And just to reiterate, because that last segment again sounded like I was trying to defend James Charles, I'm not trying to defend any of his actions because I've said it a million times in this video. I don't agree with what he did. But again, we just need to focus on the situation at hand. We need to focus on the fact that he was using his power wrongly, clearly had a very inflated ego that yes, he needs to be humbled about, and clearly just has a lot that he needs to figure out. I just don't want people to be doing this for the wrong reasons. I don't want the LGBT plus community to be getting any backlash over things that he has done, because we have been getting it. I've seen a lot of tweets that have been really rude and homophobic because of something that James Charles has done, and I don't like that, so fuck off. Okay, so that was a long video. Like I said in the intro, I want this to be a conversation. If there's anything that you want to say, leave it in the comments, let's chat. But yeah, I hope I got my message across. I just think that I have a unique perspective on this situation that I don't think people are really talking about enough, and I wanted to put it out there. If you're new here, I don't do videos like this very often. You can watch my other videos and get a vibe for my channel, and if you want to subscribe, then subscribe. That would be brilliant. But yeah, I hope that all made sense. If you want to follow my social medias, they are in the link. Like this video. Blah 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 blah. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next week for another new video. Bye! Shut up! If I barked.